The chapel bells in Monaco struck midnight as Crown Prince Alexandre stood watch over his father's deathbed. Outside, German tanks rolled through southern France. The year was Alexandre was 23. His father gripped his hand. "You must leave tonight. Switzerland. The British will arrange it."
"I won't abandon Monaco."
"You're the future. That's not abandonment, that's survival."
3 hours later, Alexandra was gone. The safe house in Lausanne was a wine merchant's apartment above a bakery. Alexandra shared it with 7 other refugees. Among them was a French lieutenant named Henri Moreau, 25, with a farmer's hands and a scholar's eyes. Henri had been a school teacher in Provence before the war. Now he was a courier for the resistance, moving documents between Switzerland and occupied France. He rarely spoke about what he carried or where he went. They met properly on the 3rd night. Alexandra couldn't sleep. He found Henri at the kitchen table, writing by candlelight.
"Letters?" Alexandra asked.
"Lesson plans." Henri didn't look up. "For after the war, I want to remember what I was teaching when it ended." "You think there will be an after?" "There has to be." Henri finally met his eyes. "Otherwise, what are we fighting for?" Alexandra sat down. They talked until dawn about books Henri had taught, about Monaco's libraries Alexandra had memorized as a child, about whether duty meant staying or going, fighting or surviving.
"You're that prince," Henri said quietly, "the one who left."
Yes.
"Do you regret it?"
Alexandra considered. "I regret that leaving was the right choice." Henri understood immediately. They became inseparable after that. For 6 months, they existed in the strange suspension of wartime exile. Henri would disappear for days on missions. Alexandre waited, learning to live with the fear that Henri wouldn't return. When Henri came back, they would sit together in silence, not needing words.
The British liaison officer noticed. "You're getting attached, Your Highness. That's dangerous."
Everything's dangerous now. Not everything leaves you vulnerable when it ends. In April 1941, Henri received orders. A mission into occupied territory. High risk, critical intelligence. He accepted without hesitation. The night before he left, they walked along Lake Geneva. The Alps were black against a darker sky. "I need to tell you something," Henri said. "In case I don't come back." "Don't. Alexandra, listen. Whatever happens, I need you to know that these months mattered. You matter, not the crown, you." "Henri, I'm not asking for anything. I just need you to know you're seen. The person, not the title." Alexandre wanted to say he felt the same, that Henri had given him the only honest friendship he'd ever known, that duty and fear and protocol had kept him silent, but silence didn't mean absence of feeling. He said nothing. Henri left at dawn. The mission went wrong immediately. Henri's network was compromised. Gestapo arrested him in Lyon 3 days later. The British confirmed it through intelligence channels. Prisoner, interrogation, then transfer to a camp near the German border. Alexandra demanded action. "We have to extract him."
"Impossible, Your Highness. We don't have resources for individual rescues."
"Then I'll go myself." "You're a monarch in exile. You can't be captured. The symbolism alone..."
"I don't care about symbolism."
But he did. He had to. That was the burden. Alexandra spent 3 weeks calling in every favor, every connection. He found a resistance cell willing to attempt a prison raid. The cost, his mother's jewelry, smuggled from Monaco. Every piece. He paid it. The raid happened on May 8th. It failed. Henri was shot, trying to reach the extraction vehicle. He died before the team could get him to safety. He was 26 years old. The resistance smuggled his body back to Provence. His family buried him in their village cemetery. No marker too dangerous, under occupation.
Alexandre learned the details 3 days later through coded telegram. He was in a meeting about Monaco's government in exile when the message arrived. He finished the meeting, made decisions about budgets and protocol. Then he locked himself in the chapel and didn't emerge for 18 hours.
He wrote his first letter to Henri that night. I never told you what your friendship meant. I never said that knowing you made me believe I could be more than a title. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He wrote every week for the next 43 years. The war ended. Alexandre returned to Monaco. He married a duchess from Belgium in diplomatic necessity. She was kind. They had 2 children. The marriage was respectful, distant. She never asked why he kept a locked drawer in his study. Inside were 2,247 letters to Henri. Never sent, never read by anyone. Alexandre made monthly trips to Provence. His security detail assumed he was visiting vineyards. He drove himself the last 20 miles. The cemetery was small, overgrown. Henri's grave still had no marker. Alexandre would sit beside it for exactly 1 hour, the time it had taken Henri to die, according to the resistance report.
He brought lavender. Henri had once mentioned his mother grew it.
In 1960, Alexandre established an educational foundation, full scholarships for children from farming families in Provence, teachers preferred. The foundation's charter never mentioned Henri's name, but Alexandre had memorized every word Henri had written in those lesson plans. Over the decades, the foundation put 843 students through university.
Alexandre's wife died in 1979. His children grew distant. He ruled efficiently without joy. People called him dignified. They meant cold.
Every month, he drove to Provence. In 1984, a young journalist noticed the pattern. She followed him once, saw him at the cemetery, photographed him from a distance. She planned an exposé about the prince's secret life. Her editor killed the story. Some things are private. Let the man grieve. Alexandre never knew how close he'd come to discovery. In March 1984, he returned from his monthly visit to find his oldest son waiting.
Father, where do you go every month?
That's not your concern.
It is when your security is compromised, when you disappear without proper protection. I said it's not your concern. They never spoke of it again. The letters continued. 2,000 became 2,500, then 2,800. Alexandre wrote about his failures as a father, his hollow marriage, the weight of wearing a crown he'd once fled. He wrote about aging, about watching the world change while staying trapped in old promises. He wrote about regret. In May 1983, Alexandre used personal funds to anonymously purchase the cemetery where Henri was buried. He established a trust for its maintenance in perpetuity. Still no marker on Henri's grave. That felt like exposure. On April 15th, 1984, Alexandre's doctors diagnosed him with heart failure. 6 months, perhaps a year. He made one request. I want to be in Provence when it happens.
Your Highness, that's impossible. The medical facilities...
I don't care. Arrange it. They moved him to a private villa outside the village. His children visited once. His grandchildren sent cards. Alexandre spent his final weeks burning letters, 3,000 of them. He kept only the first and the last. The first, I never told you what your friendship meant. The last, I've spent 40 years learning that love isn't about time together. It's about promises kept. I kept mine, Henri. I hope that was enough. On September 2nd, 1984, Alexandre had himself driven to the cemetery one final time. His nurse waited in the car. He sat beside Henri's grave. Not for an hour this time, until sunset. I should have told you, he said aloud. I should have said it when I had the chance. I loved you. I think I always will. He placed the 2 letters on the grave, weighted them with stones. Prince Alexandre died 3 days later. Heart failure, his doctors said. The papers called it peaceful. His will contained one unusual provision: a sealed envelope to be delivered to the Moreau family in Provence. Inside was a letter explaining everything, a deed to the cemetery, and 200,000 francs for a proper memorial. Henri's niece, now 70, learned the truth. My uncle never mentioned a prince, she told reporters, but he wrote to our family once from Switzerland. He said he'd found someone who understood what it meant to choose between duty and desire. He said he hoped to stay brave enough to keep choosing rightly. She used the money to commission a memorial. Simple stone. No grand language. Henri Moreau, teacher, resistance, friend. Beneath it, she had them engrave a second line. He was seen. The story remained mostly private. A few French newspapers ran brief articles. Monaco's official statement was terse. The late prince's charitable works speak for themselves. But Henri's niece donated Alexandre's letters to a provincial archive. Historians found them 20 years later. They revealed a prince who'd spent 4 decades writing to a dead man, who'd kept a promise no one asked him to make, who'd channeled grief into quiet service, funding educations, maintaining graves, carrying love like a stone he refused to put down. The letters showed someone the public never saw, vulnerable, lonely, human. One historian wrote, "We remember Alexandre as the cold prince, but these letters show a man who burned with feeling. He simply carried it where no one could see." The Educational Foundation still operates. It's trained over 3,000 teachers now. Most don't know why it was founded. The cemetery in Provence is immaculate. Tourists sometimes visit Henri's grave. They leave lavender. No one knows why. It's just tradition now. Alexandre and Henri never shared more than 6 months together. They never spoke of love aloud. They never had the chance to discover what they might have been. But for 43 years, Alexandre proved that love doesn't need time. It needs memory, fidelity, the willingness to carry someone forward. He wrote 3,000 letters to a man who would never read them. He kept every promise he'd never made aloud. In the end, that was enough. It had to be. Because some loves aren't about the life you live together, they're about the life you build from what remains.